Hey everyone, we are back in the Sichuan Basin in China for Jurassic World Evolution 3's campaign mode. Last time we were in Indonesia and saw a bunch of the dinosaurs that I had included there. Now we are going back to China to 5-star this location and see some of the dinosaurs here. Couple of ground rules if you haven't seen or been watching the videos before. I'm not going to be putting multiple dinosaurs or the same dinosaur in multiple parks. Or at least that's the intention to start. And so dinosaurs like the Spinoraptor or the Styracosaurus that were in the last island are not going to be in these. But we still have a bunch of really cool dinosaurs to go through for the sanctuary here in China. I made the decision for China to not use a ton of carnivores. Japan is going to have a ton of them, and we'll get to that later. But for the China location here, I just felt like it was going to be more herbivore targeted. And so we're not going to see too many carnivores here, but really excited to look through and just go through this as a park guest and see what that looks like. So we're going to head to the front, the entrance to the park here. And just right behind that is where we're going to have a bunch of like the maintenance facilities, staff centers, staff restroom, a couple food and drink places, and some of the more boring parts of the park are all back here away from the rest of the public, or where generally the public should be going. Okay, we are almost at the entrance of our park, but before we get there, if you enjoy videos like this, feel free to hit that like or subscribe button as I will continue to go through the rest of the campaign. I don't go through this every single day, so this is more of a weekly post to go through every single one of these parks, because I do want to try to make these look like they're actually parks and not just something that I'm trying to get through to get to sandbox mode. But now we are in the entrance of our park, and we have a couple of these overhang tunnel spaces here to just break up these smaller skeleton statues that start the park here. A couple of these were already in the park when we started, when you come in the first time. But we've just cleaned that up, removed some of the debris, and then added a couple more, like this one that we're coming up on here with 2 different sauropods in it. Or maybe there's 2 sauropods in this one here for us to walk into. We've also got a couple spaces here that are just public seating. And then you can see we have a couple of these buildings. These aren't functioning buildings, but I think of them more as guest locations that you can come and you can learn a little more about the dinosaurs here, since this is intended to be more of a sanctuary. This isn't supposed to be just some big fancy park with a bunch of attractions and rides and viewing spaces. There's a couple in here, but we have this one hotel that we're coming up on, and then a few of these just buildings that I'm going to say are more just for learning. Maybe they're more museum-like with some fossils and things inside them, but they're not hotels and spaces for guests to just stay. Coming up on our shelter, and then as we go on and take this right here, you can kind of walk by. There's a viewing gallery or a viewing platform right over there. And then as we look in, this is just the Apatosaurus. So originally I had put a bunch of different dinosaurs in here, and I frankly hated it. So I removed a bunch of them, and this is just for Apatosaurus. So for the 5-star location, you do need to have a space that has at least 3 different dinosaurs cohabitating. I've moved that to the cruise, the Cretaceous cruise space. It's no longer going to be here. This is just Apatosaurus, and we will get through actually taking the tour through it. But there's another way around if you don't actually want to drive through the Apatosaurus enclosure. So for the sanctuary, if you don't actually want to be in a space with the dinosaur, you have to in some way. There's one part you have to go through, but you don't actually have to go through giant dinosaurs if you'd rather not go through that. We're coming up on the Patago Titan enclosure that's just here to the left, and then on the right there's not actually dinosaurs in here, but I have this space here. It's just scenery. It's just scenic. So we have the Ankylosaurus against the Tyrannosaurus Rex, looking like they're fighting. We don't actually have either of these dinosaurs in here, but I wanted to make a scene, and so that's where they are. But we have this fencing on the side here that we've just built out for the Patago Titan enclosure. It goes on 2 sides of it that we come through. And so as we come around the side here, you can kind of walk into the Patago Titan enclosure or at least into the deep water to look into this space here. It's not the most safe space, but we have to have at least something in Jurassic Park that's not safe, including our maintenance drivers that drive like maniacs. And we feel like we need to see at least one of those every time that we go through a tour here. So as we come up here on the back side of it, we also can look in through this little gate here. You can see some of the Patagotitan as well, if you weren't able to see them from the other space, you'd like to be a little bit safer. And then we just walk through this tunnel on the back side, or not tunnel, it's a covered area. We walk through the covered area to go back here, and we see on the left side here, there's the Mamenchisaurus. And then on the right side here, this is how we get into our lagoon space here. And so for our lagoon here, we only have one dinosaur here. It's the Mosasaurus. And this is part of what took me so long to put this video out, is I needed to do the challenge to get the Mosasaurus statue to put it in here, because I've been wanting to put it in this little fountain. And so it took me a little bit longer to do it, but it's completed. I'll post that video later, not today. But this is just our Mosasaurus lagoon. And we have our nest for the Mosasaurus, and they just go crazy. So I actually have 5 Mosasaurus in here. And I really like this color for the Mosasaurus. Not this one, but the other one, the more sandy red color for that, I thought was really cool. But other than that, this lagoon is just a space to kind of hang out and chill and not try to get eaten by a Mosasaurus. You can take the Cretaceous cruise through here, and that will take you all the way to the back side of this, but we are instead going to start with the Jurassic tour, like we said, to actually get into the rest of our park. A little bit of a rough start there, hitting a rock, but we will go through it's our only ones. I'm gonna hit a tree, but it's all of our sauropods. So we're gonna go through this one here. This is, like we said before, this is the Apatosaurus enclosure. And so we have a couple of them just to the right here as we're driving past. And then typically they are either on the left side here where we have our waterfalls, or they're gonna be on the right, but a little bit further out, closer to the fencing between them and the Patagotitan. So we're just gonna go around this Jeep truck vehicle, and then we've got a bunch of them here on the left here by the water. So we're gonna just pop over there and see a couple of these. We got the baby Apatosaurus over here, or juvenile, just hanging out, trying to get attention. I hear that. And then we will keep going through our enclosure. Is there a better word to call it for if it's a sanctuary? Is it still an enclosure? It might be. So we got a bunch of Apatosaurus in here, and there's a ton of them. Like, there's no other way to say it. There's a lot of Apatosaurus in here. And I went back through and was able to modify the genes so that they didn't take up as much territory, they didn't need as much territory as they continue to expand. And then we can go through the rest of our park. So we pop through here, just through this makeshift tunnel with logs and rocks. And you can stop here. This is where you could go to the rest of the park if you wanted to just make a quick dash. But we're not going to do that. We're going to go back through the other 2 enclosures that you can go through in this loop. And those are going to be Mamenchisaurus and Patagotitan. So we will pop on over here. And so the Mamenchisaurus is just right over here on the left. We have 3 Mamenchisaurus. One of them was originally a juvenile, but they are not anymore. But we've got 3 in here that we're able to see, and then we have their nest that's just a little bit further away from the water for them. That's a little closer to the lagoon that we saw. And then we have a ton of the Patagotitan. The Mamenchisaurus they don't have a ton of them, but Patagotitan and Apatosaurus, we have a ton of them in here. Of the 3 that we have in here, I think Patagotitan is my favorite of the sauropods. I don't actually have a really good reason for it, but I just think that they're really cool. So I enjoy going through the Patagotitan enclosure. So you get to go along on the ride with me to just spend some time around the Patago Titan. And then after that, we will pop right back over to the rest of our park where we could have stopped with the Jeeps previously. Okay, we're back to where we would have gone with a Jurassic tour. So now on the backside here, we have our hotel. We've got a couple different spaces here for guest amenities. And then you can see we've also got our emergency shelter here to just keep this space entirely separated, kind of, from the rest of the park previously. So we have this walled off, and then we can go through to our Cretaceous cruise through this covered tunnel bridge bit thing. And then we can see on the back side here of the left side, that is a abandoned warehouse. Some of the lights are still on. Maybe someone's in there working where they shouldn't be, but there are dinosaurs over there that you can see from the Cretaceous cruise. And then on the right side here, we just have a couple more of those statues. So we have the Stegosaurus statue over here. We also have the Triceratops statues. And then in the water there, you can see the Attenborosaurus statues as well. But we just were able to walk through this. This takes us down to our cruise. And then in the side here, since there's a ton of dinosaurs that were dug up in the Sichuan Basin, as I understand, put a bunch of different dinosaur bones and fossils in the rocks here on the side. So you can see some of those. Maybe those are there just more just artistic because we would have dug them up if they're already there. But then we're able to go from there and we could get into our Cretaceous cruise right off of this. So we'll pop into the Cretaceous cruise here for a little bit and get going. We got a couple of different dinosaurs in here. So we have behind us here now, we have the iguanodon, who are really fickle. They are very particular with their habitat, and they were a little bit difficult for me to figure out how to fix here because they kept wanting to break out before. But anyways, the Cretaceous cruise can take you through to the lagoon like we saw before. And so you can take that in a loop to get through that here. We're not going to go through the lagoon because we've already seen it, but you could go down in through this here, and then we'll just take a circle back around to the other side of our cruise. And then you'll see we got the Sinoceratops in here. We have a ton of different dinosaurs in here. By a ton, I think I mean 4. So we have Sinoceratops. We have the iguanodon over here right now. We have, if we can see a couple of them there, there's Centausaurus, and then there's Archaeornithomimus in here as well. And once you've finished going through your cruise, you're able to pop out here, and this is where you're able to see those larger, the Giganotosaurus up here. So you go through this, we have stairs built into the rock hill incline here. So you're able to go up here, and then all of these buildings here, there's a couple that aren't actually functioning buildings, but the buildings on the backside there are all solely for the Giganotosaurus enclosure. So we want to make sure that this is totally, perfectly secure. Nothing would ever go wrong in here, even though this is Jurassic Park. But you can see inside we have our Giganotosaurus enclosure habitat, and it's a really large one because I want to make sure they have plenty of space to try not to get ticked off at each other, but they still get mad because if there's too many, I'm not looking at it right now, but I feel like if there's too many, it's males or females, they're very particular about which dinosaurs are in here. They also bust up the vehicles here all the time, so I don't love that, but hey, for the view here, it looks great. We have a beat up truck here that we didn't intend to have.
But yes, this is, other than this and technically the Mosasaurus, we only have 2 carnivores in the entire sanctuary here in China. But on the other side of this here, if you're not going to go look at the Giganotosaurus, you can also go down here, and we have 2 other dinosaurs in this space here. And again, this one also has a bunch of maintenance and rangers and medical facilities built specifically for that, because with the stairs that I have on the other side, the vehicles do not like going between them. So we have to have 2 separated for both of them to make this work. But we've got some picnic tables here that we've tried to just color to make them look more like picnic tables. And then we come back around here. This is where all those vehicles, the maintenance, the rangers, everything's over there. And then we have the gyrosphere set up here to go through this enclosure. Just 2 dinosaurs in it. So you can see one of them in there really quickly. If you missed that, we'll get to it in a minute. But the big one in here is the Therizinosaurus. And they typically are out by the log viewing gallery that we just saw on the left. It's right there over in the water right now. But we only have 1 Therizinosaurus in here right now. We did have another one. The other one's dead right now. And they're also very particular about how many males and females they want to have in here. So that's always a problem, because they also can try to break out sometimes, and we try not to have that happen in Jurassic Park. But alas, 1 Therizinosaurus in our park at this time. Therizinosaurus are obviously very particular, and very few dinosaurs like being in the same enclosure with them, which is kind of a problem because I wanted to make a larger space here for them. But then we also have, there's like an abandoned barn here. I have some abandoned, destroyed spaces in here for them. And then also we have included some of the Lysosaurus. Now I do have some of these in the Badlands as well. And I will eventually probably put some more dinosaurs in here with Therizinosaurus if I can separate them far enough, which is why this is such a large enclosure. But I do have both of them in here. And then you can see kind of here as I'm taking the gyrosphere on the backside here. We have some abandoned buildings, and then this barn here that could be set for a bunch of different dinosaurs. But right now it's just an unused abandoned barn. But that gets us through the entirety of the Sichuan Basin Park that we have here. We've seen some of the bigger dinosaurs with the Giganotosaurus, the Therizinosaurus, the Mosasaurus that have made their debuts here in the Sichuan Basin. They will not be making appearances in many other parks. There's a possibility of them coming back occasionally, but it's not something that I would like to plan for. Next time we are going back to Nevada, to Clark County, to build out that park built on pterosaurs. And a couple more things in there, including Ketrosaurus will be in there, Suchomimus, Allosaurus, and a couple more in there as well. So stay tuned for that. If you've enjoyed this video, feel free to, again, like and subscribe. Enjoy the rest of your week, and I will see you on the next build.